Hello, this is Tasha from Sensi, and I'm going to read part 3 of our story called The Aardvark Who Wasn't Sure. So, let's return to Pim. Pim was tired after his adventure, so his mother left him to sleep it off whilst she went out to find some termites. He was just waking up when she got back. "Yes, I went without you," before he could start complaining. "And it's a good job that I did. This is a dangerous place, you know. We'll have to go back to our old burrow. We're very near a waterhole." "Water's not dangerous," said Pim. "The elephants had lots of fun in it." "Well, water is dangerous to us when it attracts so many animals. They all come to drink here because this is the only drinking place for miles. That means that there are lions going right past our front door." "Like yesterday," said Pim. "Like the one that frightened me yesterday." "That's right," said his mother. "We shall have to move again, which is a pity because, well, there are lots of good termite nests in this particular area. Oh well, I must get some sleep." "I've been asleep," Pim complained. "I feel awake now. I couldn't sleep any more." "Well, you can go up the top and sun yourself for a bit if you like, just as you did the other day. But stay very close to the burrow and, in fact, keep your tail in the entrance tunnel," said his mother. Pim bounded towards the tunnel and then stopped and came back. He'd remembered something. "Perhaps I won't go up after all. There might be lions." "Not at this time in the morning. They're lazy beasts." Mrs. Aardvark smiled. "Not everything wants to eat you, you know. You'll be all right if you do what you're told." Pim crept slowly up the tunnel. He peeped out and blinked. It was already very bright, even though the sun had just risen. He pricked up his ears and listened carefully. Nothing. With most of him still inside the tunnel, Pim sat himself down. The sun was lovely and warm. Sunbathing made him drowsy, and certainly his ears were not as pricked as they should have been, or he might have heard his visitor coming. But he didn't. It didn't bound, or hop, or gallop. In fact, it had no legs at all. So it just wriggled towards him through the grass very slowly. The first thing that Pim knew about this was when something tickled his ear. He put up a back foot and scratched the tickly place. He felt something there. "You don't have to kick me," said a voice. "Sorry, I thought you were an itch," Pim said. He looked at his visitor. He seemed harmless enough, long, bendy. In fact, he looked like an elephant's trunk, but without the elephant attached. He thought he'd better make sure. "Do you want to eat me?" asked Pim, backing slowly into the burrow. "Not particularly," said the long, thin creature. "You look a bit too big for me, and anyway, I'm not hungry at the moment. Pythons don't eat very often." "Pythons? Is that what you are?" Pim stopped backing up and took a good look at his visitor. "Yes, I'm a python. What are you?" "An aardvark." An old what? Pim was getting rather tired of people making this rude remark. An aardvark. Oh, you look a bit piggy to me. Wait a minute. Aardvark. Earth pig. That's what it means. You're a sort of pig. Do pigs eat termites? Asked Pim. He wasn't a bit insulted about being called a pig, just interested. Aardvarks eat termites, at least grown-up ones do. My mother eats them every night. Oh. The python had no idea what termites were, but he wasn't going to admit it. Your mother, do you see her often? I only saw mine once, just after I'd hatched. Whoops, I think it's gone. What's gone? Pim stared at the little snake who was searching in the grass in front of him. My wiggly tooth, my egg tooth. Didn't you have one when you were hatched? It's a special tooth for slitting the shell of your egg so that you could get out. I expect I did, said Pim. I don't remember. Did you say that you've only seen your mother once? Who feeds you then? Who looks after you? I look after myself, said the python. I don't expect I'll need feeding for months, and then I shall wrap myself round something, squash it, and swallow it whole. The little python could not resist teasing Pim a little. Something like you, I should think. You'd be very tasty. Pim backed hurriedly into the burrow. The python was only a little chap, but with a little wicked glint in his eye, the python followed Pim a little way. May I practice on you? He asked. It would be awfully helpful of you. I'd try not to squash you too much. Pim didn't feel like being awfully helpful. He turned and bolted down his hole. Mrs. Aardvark opened one eye as her son scuttled in. Well, who wanted to eat you? She asked. A python, said Pim. His mother sat bolt upright. Oh, it was only a little one, but he said that I'd be tasty. I dare say, said Mrs. Aardvark. You keep away from pythons, big ones anyway. This one had just hatched, said Pim. His egg tooth fell out whilst we were talking. Oh, he was just a baby then. Mrs. Aardvark settled back into her sleeping position. Pim curled up too, but there was one more thing that he wanted to ask. Was I hatched? I don't remember. No, you were born. What does born mean? Well, you grew in my tummy, and when you were ready to arrive, I landed you just... You're not an egg. Pim snuggled close to his mother. He thought about the poor little python who had to crack his way out of an egg by himself and had nobody to look after him or feed him or belong to. Oh, I'm glad I'm an aardvark, Pim said. I'm glad I was born and not in an egg. Late that evening, Pim and his mother crept out of their burrow and stood listening, ears and noses a-quiver. There had been a lot of traffic past their door earlier on. It seemed as if every animal, in Africa went to the waterhole, but now it was finally safe to come out. "Come on," said Mrs. Aardvark. "Keep close to me." Pym had every intention of keeping close. There were lots of strange smells about, and he could hear odd bellows and roars in the distance. This was no place to linger by himself. They galloped across the ground towards their old burrow. It wasn't really very far. Pym began to get excited when he recognised his old home ground. "There's the baboons in the lookout tree," he shouted. "We're there!" He ran ahead. "I'll be first home," he called over his shoulder. But he had a shock when he bounded up to the burrow. Someone was there before him. It was an animal with an incredibly ugly face, and it was blocking the entrance. It was standing there with great curving tusks pointing towards Pym. It looked very fierce indeed. Pym backed away and ran to his mother. "Mum, keep away! There's a thing! It's a horrible thing!" "With tusks?" his mother asked. "And an ugly face?" "Oh, it's just a warthog. I should have known that this might happen. The lazy things will always take over one of our burrows rather than dig a home for themselves. I expect it's a lady warthog who wants to have her babies in there. We'll have to dig a new one, that's all." "You mean you're going to let her have it?" Pym said. Our burrow?" "Do you feel like arguing with those tusks?" Mrs. Aardvark said. "I don't. Anyway, you should be proud because we are the best diggers in Africa. Then this makes all the other animals want our dens." Pym thought about that as they moved on, looking for a good place to make a burrow. "Here we are," his mother said. "I like this place." She looked around at the sandy soil in the sheltered spot that she had chosen. They were still on a slight hill and would have a good view of the surrounding countryside. "Mum," Pym said, "if we didn't dig such good burrows, other animals wouldn't want them, would they? We could keep them for ourselves, and maybe that would be much nicer." "Don't be silly, dear," his mother said. "Come on, I'll give you a digging lesson." "I'm not sure that I want to be a good digger," Pym said stubbornly, sitting on his tail. "If I make rotten burrows when I'm grown up, then no one will steal them, will they?" "No, perhaps not, but the roof will probably fall in on you, and you'll be buried alive, or when you're caught far from your rotten burrow by an enemy, you won't be able to dig fast enough to get away from them. Either way, you won't last long. Please yourself, you don't need to learn to dig if you don't want to." She turned away, but Pym decided that he did want to. "All right," he said, "you can teach me to dig if you like. It might be useful." So Pym had a digging lesson. He was taught how to sweep away with his back feet and his tail the earth that he had dug up with his forefeet. He was also taught to fold down his ears. This was to keep the earth out of them. "I wish I'd known about this yesterday," he said. "It's very tickly, earth in your ears." "Yes," his mother said, "but you can pop them back up now. It's time I made the burrow, so watch." She began to dig at enormous speed. Earth and stones flew into the air behind her in a great shower. She stopped and came up to see if Pim was all right. He had his ears folded down and his eyes tightly shut. "What have you shut your eyes for?" she said. "How can you watch like that?" "Because earth in the eyes is uncomfortable too," he said. "Have you ever tried to watch another aardvark digging? I'm all battered." "I'm sorry, dear," Mrs. Aardvark said, "but you don't have to stand right in the line of fire, you know. Move over there a bit. That's right, I shan't be long." She dived in again, and there was a new burrow waiting in no time at all. Mrs. Aardvark came up to invite Pim to come and inspect it. "Well," she said, "will it do?" "It will do," Pim said, looking around at the neat chamber underground. "If I were a warthog, I just couldn't wait to come and pinch it." "Pim," Mrs. Aardvark said warningly, "go and build yourself a rotten den then. Go on, clever sticks." "I will," Pim said. "When I can dig as well as you, I will. But for now, this will do." He grinned at his mother. "When I'm grown up, I'll build a burrow that every animal in Africa will want for his own, not just a few ugly old warthogs. All the animals will know that I am the best digger in the world. Can I have my feed now?" "Yes," his mother said, settling down on the earth floor. "You may. So, you've decided to be a good digger after all, have you?" "Yes," said Pim with his mouth full. Then he leaned back and looked up at his mother. "Well, I can't help it, can I? I am, after all, an aardvark." And that is the end of part 3 of our story. Until next time, bye-bye.